Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to 10 Count. I'm Steve Ball, but today I am honored and I am privileged to talk to Hernandez. How are you doing today?
What's up, Steve? How you doing, brother?
I am doing great. It is a wonderful day in the neighborhood when I get to sit down and talk to someone like you. But what's very interesting is when I got the opportunity, we were talking about having this interview. The first question I wrote down, because I knew I needed to ask it, was why do you feel like you were never TNA/Impact Wrestling World Champion? Because to me, it's shocking. It is absolutely shocking. This never happened.
Well, it's real simple, Steve. It can happen to everyone. There's always the what ifs on many guys. So I mean, I'm no special case. But going back to say 2009, 10, 11, that era right there, I was being mentored by Jim Cornette.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, Jim Cornette and Vince Russo and Dixie all had a little disagreement about the creative way things go. And if Jim is mentoring me and Jim quits/gets fired, everything that Jim was associated went downhill. I mean, look what happened with Matt Morgan, the same thing.
Yeah.
All of Jim's projects went out the door just because they were Jim's projects.
That's interesting because you've heard stories of like Paul Heyman. If you're a Paul Heyman guy and you get labeled that, and if someone's pitching for you for so long, eventually they go, all right, we don't want to hear that anymore. We're going to purposely hurt this person because you won't shut up about him. And Jim Cornette, obviously a figure in wrestling, you either love him or hate him. I love him, so he shares his opinion, and
I'm
that's his
opinion.
opinion. Yeah, God damn it. Come on, damn it, pal. I love, but it's shocking to hear that because for me, that's money left on the table because you, for so long while in TNA Impact Wrestling, the momentum was just building and building. It to me, it was just like a dumb decision not to do it. And now at the same time, do you feel like maybe bringing in all these former WWE wrestlers, they were like, okay, well, you plaster. Well, Sting wasn't WWE, but he was WCW. Plaster him or Kurt Angle or Scott Steiner or Booker T on a poster versus you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that was one of the reasons as well, being like, oh, well, these are the stars that people recognize. You're being groomed.
I don't think that at all. I think because I mean, when Samoa Joe was a champion, he was predominantly on the poster, so that has nothing to do with it. I really think Dixie pushed hard for me to be the champion. Jim Cornette obviously did. I don't think Vince Russo was 100% on board as me as a champ, just on the proven commodity factor. He was going with what he thought at the time was the safe bet, the former WWE guys. And, we all can be upset and what ifs. At the end of the day, I'm still getting paid. My family's being taken care of. So, a lot of these guys can say, they can complain about, oh, I was never the heavyweight champion. Oh, I never had a singles run. Bro, my house got paid for. My cars got paid for. My kids go to good schools. So, I mean, I love pro wrestling. I've been doing it for over 20 years. But for me to be a baby and cry over a predetermined outcome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm never going to be the champ. Bro, I was like, sorry, that's my dog. I was like a 17 million time tag champion. So who cares?
True.
I mean, I'm not, I'm not disrespecting the sport or anything like that. But I mean, let's be realistic. Did I want to be the singles champ? Of course, everybody wants to be the heavyweight champion. That's if you're not in wrestling, if you're in wrestling, you don't want to be a heavyweight champion, then maybe you should go do something else.
Yeah,
because that's everyone's ultimate goal. But looking back on it as I get older, brother, my life is good. My kids are taken care of. Everyone's happy. I got injured. I got, I'm relatively healthy. Who cares? At the end of the day, no one's going to care if I won the belt 20 times or 1 time or 0 times.
True. The mortgage does not care about if you won a championship or not being paid. It got paid. So then And then it's not like, oh, excuse me, Mr. Hernandez, were you champion as well? No. Okay, well, your check still cleared though, so thank you for that. And I guess that's
Mhm.
what it is. People, wrestling business,
Yep.
business. The
Yep.
business part of it is getting paid
Yep.
and being paid what you believe you were worth. And obviously, you're talking about your kids are taken care of, your
Yep.
family's taken care of, house, cars. So
Yep.
in reality, your manager, your
Yep.
boss asked you to do something, you did it, you
Yep.
got paid.
That's what I mean. That's how I look at it. I'm paid to do a job.
Yep.
Whether you want me to be the champion, whether you want me to be the lowest man on the totem pole, fine. Do I think TNA left a lot of money on the table as far as merchandise, as far as marketability, as far as uh, getting more from the Latino audience? Absolutely, because now everyone, every Hispanic dude is a champion in WWE, AEW, XYZ. But just think if we did that in 2010. We get this big powerhouse guy throwing people around and last name Hernandez from Florida to California, all those lower states where Latinos are huge populations, it would have exploded for TNA.
Right. I know. I used to live in Florida, so I'd go to the Impact tapings, and it wasn't the events that were awful. It was the line to get into them because there were no tickets. So
No.
you had to go inside Universal
Yep.
Studios, and then you had to wait in a long ass
Mm-hmm.
line for like 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to bring a friend, so your friend could be there, so you go to the bathroom, get
Yeah.
food, come back, and swap out. Like, was there ever a discussion of the process and how that was done? Because those tickets technically were free. Like,
Yeah.
there was no money being made
Yeah.
on the audience unless you came
Yeah.
into Universal Studios, which Universal Studios
Mm-hmm.
obviously must be taking a percentage of what is
Cool.
coming in. But was there ever discussion of like we should sell tickets to these things? Obviously, you went on the road eventually,
Yeah.
but those are all free.
Yeah. Those are free. Well, that's easy because Universal is not going to let you sublet their own building.
True.
So how the only money they could possibly make was off that little merch island they had in the front.
One little merch
Yep.
table and
Mm-hmm.
one little stand with hot
Yep.
dogs and like water and I think maybe
Yep.
some beer,
Yep.
like the bottom of like the keg. It was so awkward because I would go and I'd
Yep.
be like, oh yeah, yeah, and then I'm so hungry, and then like you see this long line. It was like going to a Universal Studios line to get a hot dog.
Yep.
Like I was such a supporter, and then I'm like, people want to buy merchandise. Like, what people want to buy these
Mm-hmm.
things. And I don't know if it's a financial thing where you can't hire someone to work a stand or hire a vendor to work another section. I don't know, but
No, I really think it was this TNA grew too big and they didn't know how to fix out certain things
mm,
because they had manpower because they had plenty of interns, they had plenty of people even begging to volunteer all the time.
wow.
Not even get paid. Just a bunch of stuff. I mean, I just think it's TNA from 2002 to 2006 grew too big, and so some of the wheels were always tightened all the time because when you go from barely deep in the red and all of a sudden you're making profits and you're on Spike TV and you have Sting and you have Kurt Angle and you have who's who of anyone who got fired from WWE on your show now. It's like you won the lottery.
I know. And what's crazy too is like the ratings at the time from you're talking about, like million, 1.5 million,
Yep.
close to twos. These are ratings that people are like now begging for. Like, oh,
Yep.
please, can we get this? Like AEW is a constant fight between fans on Twitter being like, oh, did they make 1 million? Or, they made only 800,000. TNA was killing
Yep.
ratings every week.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of weird that people now, it's still the weird TNA LOL jokes that still appear randomly. And I'm always like confused of like, are you not aware of the history of TNA?
Yeah.
Or are you only like pigeonholing like 2 years of Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, well, you're going to use
Yeah.
that as your anchor to drop down and go, oh, well, this is why TNA isn't huge because of Hogan and Eric Bischoff. Like, where did the fall off happen in your opinion?
Well, TNA was founded in 2002.
Yeah.
I was on the program off and on from 03 and 04. 05, I was in Mexico. 06, they started getting some momentum. That's when they broke even, and then 07, 08, 09, brother. If anyone do your history, look at Wikipedia, look wherever you got to Google it. 06, 07, 08, 09, just like this.
Yeah.
Everything's going great. And I remember we were in the Europe tour, and that's when the anchor dropped that things were going to be changing because a new regime was reportedly coming in. So, hindsight's 2020. You're making great profits, and all of a sudden, well, let's, instead of keeping the ship like it is now, let's add Bischoff, let's add Hogan, let's add Van Dam, let's add this guy and that guy, instead of keeping the ship like it is. And we all know the outcome.
Yeah. And I think that's where the TNA LOL jokes were born, because it's like nobody, it's like before Hogan, that doesn't exist. It feels like for a lot of fans, unless like or you watch, because you're like, oh, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, the X division, the tag team division, the heavyweight division, like everything was going great in my opinion. And again, once you try to bring in Hogan and Bischoff, I think the hardcore, it's like when like Metallica cut their hair off. It's like suddenly everything you loved about this like underground kind of feeling was suddenly polished, and suddenly had money, and you knew it had money, and suddenly you realized, oh wait, this isn't what I fell in love with. Like this company got a facelift, and I don't like it. And maybe that's what happened.
Well, they changed the whole vibe. I mean, once they put the ramp instead of the six-sided ring, they started where I hate to say this, but in the old TNA days, before that regime came, brother, you worked your way up to the main.
Yep.
You were here like that. I mean, when LAX first started, when I was there, we were barely getting matches on Explosion.
Oh man,
And, so we lucked out, and so when you have the new regime coming in, all of a sudden they're on TV, getting major TV time, and in the top spots in the main events. And if you were following the storylines from 09 to 2010, like what the hell is going on? You have LAX versus 3D, or 3D versus Motor City Machine Guns. All of a sudden, you flip the channel, you got 3D versus Nasty Boys. And no disrespect to nobody in that group, but I mean, there's got to be other ways to integrate that in, and just straight throw them on TV.
Well, it's also not 1993 either. So, and I love the Nasty Boys. Again, no disrespect to anybody, but when you're building a company, and like you said, you're working your ass off to get to that level, and suddenly they're like, oh, well, people know the Nasty Boys. People will buy tickets. Who was going? I can't wait to go see the Nasty Boys. No,
you're putting a lot of those guys that were in the new regime on television in front of a free audience, that we talked about earlier.
True.
With limited house shows, you're not getting your money back.
No. And they brought in Val Venus, they brought in Lando Jordan, they brought in so many people. And before that, they were sprinkling in people. Jeff Hardy, Mr. Kennedy, Elijah Burke. Those were great additions. But when you like drop in like 15 people at once on one night, you're like, wait a minute, what happened to my X division? What happened to my tag team division? You just dropping on these people. It was very shocking to me. But obviously,
I remember. I don't mean to cut you off. I remember the infamous night when we ran head to head against Raw.
Yep.
And it was live, and we were, me and Matt Morgan were the champions at the time, tag champions, and we were scheduled to have a 2-minute match because of everyone else on the show. And then all of a sudden, maybe an hour before the show, maybe 2 hours before the show, we got the word that we can't even have your 2-minute match. So you either can be not on the show, or you can shake hands with Ric Flair when he gets out of his limo. I said, well, that's better than nothing. I mean, shake hands with Flair, And then all of a sudden, maybe like 30, 45 minutes before the show aired live, they gave us a 2-minute match versus Raven and Steve Richards.
Yeah,
2
that's
minutes.
and that's interesting because at one point, again, you and Matt Morgan were like heavyweight contenders. Raven
Yep.
was a former NWA World Champion
Yep.
before that when TNA lost its TV deal on Fox Sports Net, and they were on their website for like 2 months. I remember I bought those DVDs. I bought No Surrender. I think it's 2006 when it was just a pay-per-view and they had no TV. I bought that shit. I loved it. And then Raven lost on a not taped to Jeff Jarrett because they were getting that deal with Spike TV, so that all changed. I remember it all. But let's talk about Mexican America. I remember reading somewhere that you said this was the worst faction you were ever involved with, or anything involved with. You said it was very stereotypical as well, and
Yep.
they wanted you to use like very slang words to emphasize their stereotypes. Like, how did you feel about that? Because, and who came up with that?
Obviously, I didn't.
Because you said it was the worst thing ever.
Well, the girls, were great.
Yeah.
Uh,
Zelina Vega.
so, look at her; she's a big star now. I mean, Sarah Stalk, she was a big star at CMLL. It was originally supposed to be myself and Zorro from AAA because we were good friends, and something happened with the visa or something, and they made this angle. I mean, this group without getting all the pieces together, and then they added anarchy at the probably I think it was the day of. And anyway, it was I don't understand this. I'll never understand this part. LAX was such a great thing for the Latino people and for merchandise and for TNA. Anyone who doesn't think so, but there's 3 different versions of LAX now.
Yeah.
And I think what they wanted was at the time Cornette had problems with TNA with the lawsuit and stuff like that, and they still wanted a Hispanic faction, but couldn't think of anything better. So I don't understand. Maybe you don't. Maybe you could help me. How do you not put me and Homicide back together and put a mouthpiece? Since you don't like how I talk on the mic, you don't like how Homicide talks on the mic. You know this is still money and still magic. Why don't you find a mouthpiece and put us on, and put a new faction together?
My guess is the Conan lawsuit was a problem because then this is just me spitballing. The fact that if Conan is suing TNA, and some internet fans know this at the time, and yet LAX was part of with him for a little while, then it becomes a problem because then you're like, oh, well, we're putting out a version of what it's kind of like a LAX 2.0 without Conan maybe, and so they're thinking it's less than, which I don't think it would have been at all. But that's I'm just thinking of like how they would think.
Let me give you a little bit of help. From 06 to 07 is the only time me, myself, and Homicide, I'm trying to meet myself, me, Conan, and Homicide were together for 1 year only.
So then after that, it's just you and Homicide.
Yes. Yeah. So we had Shelly Martinez, then we had Hector Guerrero. Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't like that, you have, I was splitting time between TNA and AAA anyway. You can't find the mouthpiece you want, the perfect mouthpiece you want for us, and put the group, even change the name, who cares?
Right.
Because it's still the same magic in the ring, the same dynamic, myself and Homicide. I don't understand how that didn't work, and I still won't understand how that didn't work.
My guess is like they wanted the Latin community to still be into it, but they didn't have any ideas. They're like, oh, we'll just shove these people together, and that will do it. That will get that community interested. But my big beef with LAX is I feel like in today's world aren't respected enough as a viable tag team that transitioned, to communities and different organizations, because it feels like, you have teams like LOD, Legion of Doom, or like you have teams like the Hardys, Edge of Christian, Dudley Boys. These teams are always brought up, but it feels like LAX is like maybe there were too many versions or people just didn't watch. I don't know. It's just mind-boggling that you're never in like a top 10, top 20 conversations of tag teams of the past 20 years. And that to me is shocking because of how well you had matches with AJ and Daniels and everybody involved in TNA at the time. Like, why do you feel like LAX isn't ever brought up in the conversation? Was it because of just some people weren't watching TNA?
No, I honestly think one of the reasons were I mean, all the years we've been, it's been '06 when we started together. We were only together from '06 to '09.
Mm.
Legit. I mean, we did indies, we did Mexico, different places, but as on television, we were only together for 3 years. I think another factor is, bro, it's just I don't like to be political and all this. Man, Latinos always gets third choice. If there's and don't get mad, but we have babyface white boys, heel white guys. So that's 1, 2, and 3 right there.
Right.
And then LAX had great matches with all those teams. Oh, they're okay too. Let's put them in the bottom. Put them like 17th or 18th.
Huh.
And I mean, what else could it be?
No.
Because you have to realize you had when Cornette from '06, was on fire on the mic and getting these people riled up. I mean, we had that one time we threatened to burn the American flag.
Yeah.
Live on TV.
I'm guessing
the Orlando PD came and threatened to shut the show down because they thought it was real.
Oh my.
It was that. I mean, my dad stopped watching the show after that because I can't support you anymore.
Like, Dad, I'm a goddamn heel. Like, this is not real.
But I mean, when you have Orlando PD coming to Universal Studios, threatening to shut the studio down because we're going to burn the flag. I'm think you're doing well. Cornette was on fire '06. Homicide with all his unpredictability. You never know if he's going to wrestle you, stab you, bite you, And then he makes that tag to me, and then I'm just killing everyone who's standing. So it was a great dynamic at the time, and it worked out perfect.
Man, I'm just, again, it's very shocking that like wrestling, people who consider themselves like wrestling historians will bring up like one black tag team, Harlem Heat usually, and then it's like the mixed bag of nuts. They're like, oh, the Young Bucks. Like, I like the Young Bucks, but I'm sorry, they're not. The longevity hasn't exceeded what you were doing with the ratings with LAX, at least in my personal opinion. But
it's real quick. I can say, I think the Young Bucks are really good guys, and I think they're comparable to us because when we were at the height of LAX and during TNA. I'm not even shitting you, bro. Every quarter, I'm making 5 G's just off LAX t-shirts. Now, to put that in perspective for guys at home, 95% of all merch sales goes to the company. 5% is split 3 ways amongst myself, Cornette, and Homicide. So if my quarterly merch thing was 5 G's, how much was the other 95%?
Right.
So I mean, everyone, every white, black kid, green, purple, whatever color was in that studio doing this, and with that LAX shirt on.
Man.
Also, in the Bucks, they sell. Look how great they still sell their merch. So
I know. The Young Bucks are very good at merchandising. I remember going to Hot Topic, go back like 5 years ago, and I was in there because I remember hearing about the Bullet Club shirts were now suddenly in stores, like regular stores, and not a wrestling store, not online, and a regular store. You go to the mall and you walk in, you see Young Bucks, you see Bullet Club, and I was like, they market themselves pretty damn well to get in here, and obviously they're selling enough that these companies who have stores across the country are selling these shirts, and suddenly everyone started popping up wearing Bullet Club shirts and Young Bucks shirts. So, no, I don't want people to yell at me when I said about LAX and Young Bucks, but people are going to be angry no matter what. So, but I was very confused, and I wanted to hear your opinion on why LAX somehow gets lost in the conversation of top teams of the past, 20 years. It's still baffling to me. But maybe it's because the damn TNA,
That has something to do
this
with it.
weird feeling that people have against TNA sometimes. I don't know. I don't know. Are you still involved with Impact Wrestling, by the way? Because last time I was watching, you had well, not last time, but I loved the storyline where you had the wad of money,
Yeah,
and it kept going through everyone's hands. Suddenly
yes,
Akira Hogan had it, and suddenly
yeah.
Fala had it, and suddenly Johnny Bravo had it. It was just like all these people had it. Are you still working with them, or are you done?
No, I had stopped with them at the end of 21.
And why was that?
Um, it was a little break. Both of us needed a break. Nothing negative. It is, in their opinion and my opinion, the storyline was going flat, and I wanted to do different things. I love my time with Johnny Swinger. He's fucking awesome. He makes me laugh, and I mean, he knows how to get those people riled up, and it was a perfect dynamic. Where I did the straight stuff and he did his outrageousness, and they changed it to where he's doing something else with someone else. And so we did the injury angle, and we'll revisit it later. I go, cool, I'm good with that. In my opinion, it was too much comedy for myself. I love to work with Swinger, but I mean, they had us going under all the time, which is perfect for the gimmick. But then when the people started getting behind us and actually wanted us to win, oh, we can't do it no more. Okay. And it worked out. It worked out perfect timing because COVID has gone down a lot compared to how it was back then, and I'm traveling. I'm making better money, so I'm good. I'm good. It's better for me, probably better for Impact. It's maybe down the road if I can do something again with Homicide. If not, cool. I'm good with that.
Now, during the height of your TNA run, did the WWE ever try to talk to you about coming over? Because again, you're like exactly like what Vince McMahon for so long was obsessed with, like big, meaty men, and you're one of them. Was there ever like a point in time when someone's like, "Hey, when's your contract up?"
No.
No, I am shocked. The P.
I in the early part of my career, like 01, 02, I did dark matches for WWE. And I'll be honest, I never wanted to be in WWE at the time. And I like to, all Japan and Mexico, I like this, the thought, man, I can, for 3 months, I can be in Japan. And 2 months, I can be in Mexico. And 4 months, I can be in Germany. And come back to the States, that's what's my thinking when I went to wrestle coming up. And then obviously WB calls you because when you're 300 pounds and you're, hey, can you come do these matches? And I was doing dark matches with them. And that's when Kevin Kelly was the main guy.
Okay.
And, back then you sent your VHS tape to him and he dissected your matches about, what you need to work on to get developmental to move up. Well, one time I sent the tape and I didn't put my proper names and all this because I had a nice rapport with Kevin at the time. And I figured it was going to go to him. I didn't know he got let go.
Oh.
So I get this call. This is 2002. I get this call. And we had a caller ID from the landline from 20 years ago. Oh, Stamford, Connecticut. Bro, I was like this. Let me get this. Pick up. It's Tom Pritchard on the line. Reaming me a new ass. When you send a tape to WB, you address it to me, this and that. I didn't know who I'm supposed to evaluate this and that. I finally figured out who I'm supposed to evaluate, and then got to work on a lot of things, kid. You got to change your whole look. You already have a badass, a bald badass. You ever heard of Stone Cold Steve Austin? And this ripped me for about 3 or 4 minutes. So I waited him to stop. I go, sir, thank you very much, but please never call my house again, and hung up on him. Because, yes, I sent tapes. Yes, I wanted to get a job, but I'm not going to let you just
disrespect
rip
you.
me. I didn't, not hi, how are you doing?
Right.
Nothing, just raw. So 2002 was the last time I had any contact with WWE.
Wow. That is crazy that, because like, for instance, I interviewed Conan and I asked him, I was like, oh, there's a story going around that you called up the WWE and say, hey, this is K-Dog, and they hung up on you because they didn't know who K-Dog was.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's bullshit. He thinks that he knows they knew who it was. They just didn't want to talk to him. But interesting that the business wise, they would call you up. Like if you're trying to, help out the young audience or the young kids who are trying to get in the business, calling them up and giving them some advice, not talking to them like your dad. Hey, listen, you're grounded for not cleaning your room. And you're right. You didn't know Kevin Kelly wasn't still there. It wasn't like you had like emails sent to you from the WWE with the internal logs of who works there and who doesn't work there. How the hell do you know? That's crazy. That is nuts, because you hear stories about Dr. Tom Pritchard, but some people who are obviously trained by him are not going to badmouth him. And that's the interesting.
I'm
no, you're not bad. No.
I'm just telling you exactly what happened.
Exactly.
It could have been. I don't mean to be rude by this. It could have been God who called me and said this. Oh, don't call the house.
That's interesting. Yeah, because you always hear the tapes, or like people would watch them. Howard Finkel, I remember being a big proponent of watching those tapes and seeing what talent had and what didn't have. And like he had the job to watch. He had to watch all those WCW Nitros. He had to watch all those ECW episodes are on at like 1 a.m. where I lived on the Spanish channel for some strange reason. But it was on Telemundo at 1 a.m. ECW. So strange. Though, you think traveling to Mexico while working for TNA might have been a problem, because maybe they thought you had 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because you were obviously making more money and you're more popular in Mexico. So do they look at that and go, well, how dare he? Like, we're making him a star here. Did you get that feeling?
You already know. You hear around there because, well, we're paying you your TNA money and you're getting AAA money, and I'm living life large. And, coming in for TVs only when they want me. And I'll look you straight in the face and tell you, yes, I did have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, because when I want to say this, but I'll just say, when you are literally promised the heavyweight belt and you do not get the heavyweight belt, and then not only do you not get the heavyweight belt, you are stuck in tag team level only. I want a fresh start.
Yeah.
And we talked about it before. WWE was not calling. I have a huge passion and love for wrestling in Mexico. Just the crowds, the pageantry. Yes, the work is a lot harder because you have to do more dates to make the same amount of money you make in the States. But I was willing to put the work in. And I was ready to go. I was out the door, man. And I came back.
Who promised you the world title, though? Was it Jim Cornette?
Keep going higher than that.
Dixie Carter?
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Because I've heard stories where like Vince Russo whispers in her ear and she just goes, okay, that sounds a good idea. Like Jeff Jarrett being pushed out of Power into TNA was kind of like a whispering campaign, it felt like. And maybe the same thing happened to you.
Well, it was the main thing is, Dixie would tell me, hey, make the champion, this and that. I mean, it had me change the look, make sure I didn't do the LAX style look. That's why I wore the trunks and stuff like that for the first time ever. And changed the music. Her husband was the music guy who changed my song. My singles one, that is his original riff that he made. So it was all calculated for me to do this. And then when Cornette decided he cannot be all in, and with Vince Russo as head of creative, all hell broke loose. So I remember I was taking my kids to like the supermarket, and Jim called me and said, "Hey, just want to tell you, I'm not going to be there next tape." And I go, "Okay, cool." I didn't know what that. He goes, "Oh, you don't understand. I quit." I go, okay. You got to realize when I was doing those, like when I was before I was doing the matches and I was seeing like the squash matches, he was putting all these together for me. So he knows what I can do, what I can't do. I've never had a single push in my life. And he was just doing what he did with, what he saw like Dr. Death do, and guys like that.
Yeah.
And just put this big monster dude that can lift the house and show the feats of strength. Like if you watch the Impact with me, giving like Matt Morgan, almost 7 foot, a 15-second vertical. People just at the time were like, "What the hell is this guy?"
Right.
And then I hit that vertical, he rolls out, and then all of a sudden I dive on everyone. It's like, why can't you have to make something out of this? And when Jim left, Dixie went from 100% backing me to, "Hey, well, what do you have shown on the card? Who you have going with? Who you have on this taping?" So almost like inquisitive instead of, "Hey, this guy needs to have this rocket." So the rocket definitely was shut down. It wasn't really shut down. It was really just orbiting, because every time that I would get that briefcase, those people were ready.
I know.
They were ready. And it was so bad when they remember the first time, who in the history of TNA or any wrestling has a briefcase, thinks they're gonna get the belt, gets cut down, loses the briefcase, only for the very next episode, "Oh, we made a mistake. We got to give the briefcase back." Yeah. And still drop the ball again.
Yeah. Yeah, Feast or Fired were very interesting scenarios in TNA. You're giving me like a glimpse into the. I'm like looking outside the window of TNA, realizing, oh, this is what happened. And again, I love everyone who works there, and I love the people there, but this conversation is really opening up more of a light, because I've talked to a few other people who work there. The Pope, Elijah Burke, he was also promised things and by certain people, world championship runs. He won an entire tournament to become the #1 contender on a pay-per-view. He was supposed to fight AJ Styles the next month. Hogan comes in. They push that 2 months later. They slot in Abyss, who suddenly gets Hogan's Hall of Fame ring that gives him superpowers. And then, Elijah Burke gets a match, and it's kind of all over. And it was a sad, sad moment for his run as well. It's crazy. It's so crazy.
That's like when people say, "Oh, you're upset you didn't get the belt." I go, "I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I know for a fact I'm not the only one, because I saw the dominoes fall every time, for the TNA enthusiasts, it was supposed to be the main match was supposed to be me versus AJ, and AJ puts me over for the belt. That's what it was supposed to boil down to. And obviously, it did not work out that way. I mean, but we can go down the list.
Matt Morgan.
Matt Morgan.
He fought Kurt Angle at a Bound for Glory, and it was like leading to Matt Morgan beating Kurt Angle, and he lost. And if you're trying to build stars, you're not doing it right. Having them go like this and then go like this, it does not. An upside down V does not make any sense to me. It's a pyramid scheme. All right, like flip it up.
I remember I was in AAA at the time, and I'm watching the pay-per-view with Matt Morgan and Jeff Hardy in the main. And they refused to put Matt over, so they made it a DQ. And if you watch anything, if you have Impact Plus, if you have YouTube, whatever, every match that I've had with anybody with major WWE status, I won by DQ.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, you lost. I'm assuming you lost, but won, but by DQ, which is really.
every single main event Mafia guy you saw in the ring with, from Sting to Kevin Nash to Booker T. I'm fixing to get the win on them, and here comes the main event Mafia to beat my ass for the DQ. So technically, I get the win, but if you want to kill the push, just tell me. You don't have to just give me DQ wins all the time, bro. I'm good with that. Just push A, like, you know what? We don't want you as a single guy. Go back to the tag division. I'm good with that because you're wasting, 5 to 8 minutes of wrestling time that you could put something else on, and what momentum you had with me going this way, you're totally reversing it back.
Yeah. It's maddening that a few years of TNA in just a few time frame, it's just like because of just poor decisions of you have stars building up and then you just crush them because you're like, oh, I got Kurt Angle. I love Kurt Angle. Love him to pieces. But if you're trying to build up people, guess what? He should lose to those people. So it has credibility. Oh, Hernandez beat Kurt Angle. Oh, that makes him a star. Oh, he beat Scott Steiner. He beat Booker T. He beat Kevin Nash. He levels them up. So he can so now when you're up here, you can help people down here and level them up. Like that's how my brain it works. But I don't own a company. I don't own a wrestling company. So that's just me fantasy booking, I guess, the way I think it should go. And I think a lot of wrestlers feel like it should go as well. But so AEW opened up, and again, another surprise. Did they ever talk to you, reach out to you? Nothing? I am, again, shocked, sir. This is maddening. This is a conversation that's making me upset.
Well, my just like this, I make decent money, everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And, I'm talking about just being a free agent, independent guy. At the age of social media, anybody can if anybody can find me, anybody can contact me, through social media, through email, through a note on a little bird flying to my house. You can get a hold of me. So I mean, I'm not one. Hey guys, you got a job for me? Hey guys, you got open for me? You know what I can do? You know what audience I clamor to where I want to elevate for your product. If that's not what you want, cool. I'm not going to say, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. If you're not interested, cool. I'm good with it.
Yeah. Again, maddening. But then again, they have big guys they don't use either. They keep hiring people that they don't use either. So that locker room is full of people. So
I haven't. I'll be honest. Unless I'm on the show, I don't watch no wrestling.
You don't watch wrestling
unless I'm on it.
Do you watch your matches after? So I know some people don't.
No, I mean
you watch the show you're actually on, but you'll never go back and watch one of your own matches.
That's beating yourself up because
I know.
You're gonna know. Oh man, I have to beat too fast, or I have to beat too slow, or this guy missed this. He was overthinking. I just watch what happens, how it shows up on the television because me and you may have made a mistake in the ring, but no one knows but us.
Right.
So,
right. That's interesting. Yeah.
Plus, with all the different camera angles, especially like when I was in Lucha Underground, they had so many camera angles they could fix anything.
But Hernandez, thank you so much for being here on 10 Count, sharing your story. I was so excited to listen to it. I told my wife 15 minutes. This will take 15 minutes. Here we are an hour in because you had so much story to tell, and I appreciate you sharing so much here on 10 Count. I've been Steve Fall. He's been Hernandez. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. And then we'll edit there. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Awesome, brother.
I really do appreciate it because I'm absolutely shocked that you weren't world champion in Impact Wrestling. It's mind-boggling to me that management change will ruin that for you.
Well, it's that in part. Dixie was scared at the time because Cornette quit. Jeff was on hiatus for his Kurt Angle.
Oh, yeah.
So he was.
I forgot all about that.
The only person that's what happened because Jeff started screwing Kurt's wife, and then the only person that Dixie could trust, she felt at the time was Vince Russo.
Yeah.
So And Vince is going to go with what he thinks is going to work, and he's going to work. He's going to rely on Sting. He's going to rely on Kurt Angle. He's going to rely on all the older guys because he knows they're proven commodities.
True, true. Well, again, thank you so much, and I'll post this up and I'll tag you and let you know and all that good stuff, and then maybe down the line we'll do another one when things pick up somewhere else. But again, thank you so much.
Talk to you later.